Hello, my YouTube family and friends. I'm back. I wanted to hop back on here and share this video. This has been in my spirit as well, but it is a sad sharing. But I want to help somebody, and as well as encourage my own self, because we all have, what happened to this beautiful lady. We all have been there, and it's just the grace of God that we all are still here. Let's just be honest. But and if you have not said it already, we're gonna say it together. Thank you, Jesus, for another day. And so I want to read First Peter verse 7 and verse 8. And it reads, First Peter chapter 4 verse 7 and verse 8. And it reads, the end of all things is near. Therefore, be clear-minded and self-controlled so that you can pray. Above all, love each other deeply because love covers a multitude of sins. And verse 9, I'm going to go ahead and read verse 9. So offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. And so, again, that was First Peter chapter 4, verse 7 through 9. So I want to go back and highlight that verse 7. The end of all things is near. Therefore, be clear-minded and self-controlled so that you can pray. And so this story, I like to watch, which I've mentioned previously, how I don't enjoy, but I every now and then I watch on YouTube something about crime stories, and I'm not watching it for what happened to the person. I'm like, because it's a shame, or it's sad that they're no longer with us, but I'm watching it to see what happened. How did their life end? What caused, what happened with that. So that's why I'm watching, and it's a reminder for myself, and I pray it is for you as well, to be alert, to always be alert, to be prayerful. And I'm going to share something. I'm going to go ahead and share it because I don't want to forget to share it. So I think I shared in my video on last Sunday how I was so looking forward to a man at church, at the church we attend. He had invited me to, at the church we attend, which they didn't do that in Tennessee, but they do it here, which, I don't feel like there's anything wrong with that. But let me just get into what I'm saying. So there's quite a few people at the church we attend. They have groups at their home, like they talk about the sermon, the message that was, Sunday. Some of them get together through the week, Friday night or Wednesday night, whatever. So it's a group, it's just a gathering, and they pray and all that. So it's the family or the husband and wife, whatever the case is, sometimes they cook them dinner and whatever, and then they go into worshiping Jesus and talking about the message that was spoken on Sunday. So it's almost like a discussion, I guess, if you will, and just getting together, whatever. So anyway, Sunday after church, I saw this man. I hadn't seen him in a little while in person. I've been seeing him online when because on Wednesday I don't go to Bible study, so I watch it. Sometimes we'll watch a little bit of it on Wednesday night. And so, I recently had seen him on one of the Wednesday night services. So I was like, oh, there he is. And so hadn't seen him in person in a while. So I got a chance, the Lord able me to see him this past Sunday as I was going down the steps. And so me and him talked, I asked him how he was feeling, how his children doing, adult children, his wife. He said, oh, everybody's fine. And then he asked me about my family. I said, yeah, we're all good. We're just always giving honor, praise, and glory to God. So then he went on to tell me that I was telling him, how I was wanting to be more involved in the church, because it's so much to do. I've shared this before, but it's just so much to do there. Yeah, this headband tight on my on my head. It's so much to do there, and it's so much it's just, just you name it, they do it, and it's all for the glory of God. But I'm just very mindful, because that's what I was doing in Tennessee. So I said, Lord, just show me where, which ministry you want me to be a part of. So anyway, me and him was talking, and I was telling him about, I went to the women's prayer meeting, but only went one time. The Lord encouraged me to go, so I went, but I haven't been back. Excuse me. So I told him that, and he said, oh, I said, I'm just trying to, get more involved or whatever. So then he proceeded to tell me, he told me about that group that him and his wife are a part of it, at the other husband and wife, and at their home. And he was telling me, they cook dinner, this, that, and the other. So I said, okay. I said, well, you know what? I think I want to attend that. So that was supposed to be this past Friday. So it's supposed to have been last night, yeah. And so he texted me, I think it was, I don't know if it wasn't last night. It was either Thursday night or Wednesday night. He texted me and he said, we're not going to have it because it was something event going on at the church we attend. And so he said, it's canceled for this Friday. So it got canceled last night. So I was like, I sort of was thinking in my mind, I was like, well, y'all be going to that church, longer than me. So why you didn't tell me that then? So, because I think about everything now. I used to be so, just going and not even paying attention to anything. But now I pay attention to everything. And, Jesus on my side. And I pray he on our side. But you got to ask for discernment. But I did ask the Lord. I said, Lord, because after I accepted it, I asked Jesus. I said, please, if you don't want me to go to these people's house, even though they say they doing all this in your name, block it, allow something to happen. Well, that happened. And so I didn't get to go, it was canceled, for that reason. But still, it's like he closed that door and he was like, don't go over there. And so, after I told him, I said, well, thank you for letting me know. So I didn't hear anything else from him. So I thought that was sort of strange because I was kind of expecting him to say, you're welcome or whatever, but it was nothing. So I'm like, So, y'all, like I said, y'all, I'm not paranoid, but I pay attention to everything now. Everything. And so I thought, so like I said, it was supposed to have been last night around 6 or so. And he had already previously told me, he said, we usually, at their home, so sometimes we don't leave at 11 o'clock at night. So I was thinking to myself, what are y'all doing? And he said, well, sometimes, we just get into deep discussions about the Lord, and we praying. And I said, okay. And I was thinking to myself, well, I don't know if I'm going to be over there from 7 to 11 because, I will have work that day. So, I don't know about that, but I said, okay, I'm willing to try it, So I was planning on going. I was sort of looking forward to it. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday when I got off work. I said, okay, I was just really looking forward to that. But God, it's like God blocked it. And, you could say, well, that event, but no, it's like God said, no, don't do that. I don't want you to do that. And so I said, okay, Lord, I'm not going to try to do that anymore. I won't go over that house. And so for whatever reason, he blocked it. But, my youngest son had told me, he said, Mama, when I first mentioned it to him Sunday, because like I said, I was looking forward to it. I was excited. And he told me, he said, Mama, he said, I don't think you should do that. And I said, I know the man who invited me. I don't really know his wife, but I know him. And I know whose house is going to be over. I know them. I've talked to the wife quite a few times at church, and she's even given me clothes when we first moved here, some nice clothes. So I was like, they're not like they just total strangers. And so he was just going back and forth. We was talking here in my bedroom, and he said, Mama, I don't think that's a good idea. And so I said, well, if it's about the Lord, I said, I think I should be okay. I said, God will protect me. So that was Sunday. And so the man who invited me, who attends there, he sent me the address. So I did the Google map, nice, beautiful house, they live in, the couple, and I think their kids are grown because they're like they're in their 60s. And so I was like, okay, I sort of know where the house located at the area. So nice area, nice house too. So I was like, okay, like it's a big house. So I was like, So nothing stood out for me right there, as an alert or anything. But yeah, God blocked it. And so I was like, okay. And then protection. And then a lady I was watching, I love watching, well, because I'm always on YouTube. So a lady came across the screen. I don't even watch her channel, but I was watching some of her and her husband's videos. And she said, and I know that word was for me. She said, stay out of people's houses. Say, quit going over people. Don't go over nobody's house. Say, people, we living in some evil times. And I'm not saying that that's what they would have done to me, but we just got to be careful, y'all. We got to be careful because you can, you know, maybe it's not even intentional, but you can be eating something and maybe, like I said, it could be very unintentional. You get really sick from something, or just God know. He know, y'all. He know everything. He know everything. He omnipotent. So when he warn you and tell you don't do something, you better not do it, because he know what's best. And then that was so I thank him. I thank you, Lord, for your protection. But that was another. And I had told my youngest son, he said, Mom, I told you. I didn't think that was a good idea anyway. And so I said, yeah, you did, son. And I know the Lord Jesus speaks through him to help me a lot of times. I know he do. And so I'm gonna start paying more attention. But I was but see, God blocked it anyway. He got his hand on me and my children. So he said, I'm gonna block it anyway. We ain't gonna even go over there, because I don't want you to go over there. So there was this other couple, the couple that we were going, and not that it matters, but the couple that I was going over their house on last night, they're a biracial couple, interracial couple. And then there's another couple where we used to live when we moved here in 2022. They're a black couple, so they're older. They're in their 70s, I think. But I had been randomly going over their house. I think I've been up since we moved from over there. I've been over their house 2 or 3 times. And in one time in particular, my daughters were in the car with me. But they waited in the car, and I went in there, me and the wife, the woman, we were just talking or whatever. And the husband, he always just go back upstairs. But I would never I have a number, the wife number, but I never texted her before I would go over there. You know, we'll just be coming from church or in the neighborhood, and I just show up and, knock on the door and, hey, and I always go in there and she'll give me a cup of tea or whatever. And I stay over there an hour, 2 hours. And it's always been pleasant, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing like that. But then I haven't did that. That's been, I think that was last time I went over there. And so when that lady came across the video and said that, I said, okay, Lord, I ain't going back over their house either. So he said, stay out. Basically, the message that the lady was delivering from the Lord: quit going over people's houses. Don't go over nobody's house. Unless well, we ain't even in Tennessee anymore. So of course, people here, I don't, I always generally meet people at a restaurant, or we leave from church and go to a restaurant. So yeah, he said, don't do it. So I said, okay, Lord, I ain't gonna even go back do a surprise visit over their house no more, because I've been over there, I know, at least 2 or 3 times. And like I said, nothing's ever happened. But y'all, when God gave us a warning, it's for a reason, and he know what he doing. It's purpose in it. So I wanted to just share that, how the Lord will protect us even when we're doing, not thinking clear, and when we just, I say it about myself, ignorant. Ignorant is not a bad word. It just means I don't know. I didn't know. So he said, and the Lord said, I'm here to remind you. So I'm just going to remind you. So anyway, I wanted to share this, and I'm going to try not to be on here too long. But this was, like I said, I like watching the crime shows because it brings awareness for me and my family. And I'm always watching. And like I said, I'm not paranoid. I'm not, no, it's not me at all. But we have to be mindful. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And we got to quit walking around here like we don't know what's going on. It's people that you right around, next door neighbors, whoever it is. They don't mean you no good. They mean you harm. And we have to be alert at all times. So this happened back in 2014. And the lady's name, beautiful lady, her name was Beverly Carter. And at the time when this happened, this unfortunate situation happened, she was 50 years old. She was a realtor. And I can't remember. I want to say it was in, I'm trying to remember what the state it was in, y'all. I can't remember. I'm reading my notes. I didn't write that down. But anyway, she was a realtor. Look her up. Look the name up. It'll come up. But her name was Beverly Carter, and she was a realtor, and she was 50 years old. This was in 2014. And she, from what the article was saying, and what the what they were saying, all the information that was given on the show, was that she was really, she excelled in what she did. She sold homes, and she just seemed like it was just a fit for her. Well, it was a Friday night in 2014, while she was showing a home to a couple. She went and met a couple who she believed to be potential home buyers. So I had seen this story before, but sometimes when they do the different stories, they tell it different ways or whatever. But I remember the first time when I seen it, I think it said something about she had got the call. I can't remember which one. And I don't even know if that couple was married. I want to say they were, but I can't remember. But that ain't even important because they're in jail now. But I'm just gonna say couple, and I can't remember which one called her. I think it was the man that called her first, I think. And I think she was a little leery about that. And so then that woman called her. I think that's how it went, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, nevertheless, they ended up meeting her at the house. She was looking, thinking, okay, I'm finna sell this house to them. They're potential home buyers, whatever. Well, she followed all her safety protocols, but tragically she died. And so she did let her husband know when she was going to, heading out to the house to meet them. She let him know, hey, I'm going to this house. Excuse me. Hey, I'm going to this home. I got some potential home buyers. And I'm sure she did that all the time. So see, that was the safety protocol she was following. And so she let him know. And so after he didn't hear from her for a while, he went to the house because, he had the address. So I was like, that was really good that she did that. And so, which I'm sure she did it all the time. And so when he got to the house that she was, the home that was for sale, he found her vehicle with her purse in it, but the door to the house was wide open. So he was like, why is her purse, where is she at? And why is her purse in the car, in her vehicle? She had an SUV, and the door wide open to the house. So he went in the house. He didn't see her. So that's when he alerted the authorities. Like, where's my wife at? What's going on here? So anyway, everybody just started searching for her, in the area, this, that, and the other. And nothing was coming up. No info was coming up for her whereabouts or anything like that. And I can't remember how long it took for them to actually get a lead in the case. But the couple was eventually caught, and they were charged with murder and kidnapping. And then the authorities, they later, I think the guy, because I think what was the whole goal there, or so they thought, but it failed. Because evil never worked. When you plan and stuff like that, you're gonna get caught. I don't know why people think they're gonna get away with it. They whole thing, they're gonna ride off into the sunset with all this money, and they never get not a dime of the money. But they get jail time. And some of them get death sentences. But anyway, the whole plan, that's why her purse was in the vehicle, come to find out, was because their whole thing, they needed money. I think the couple was going through a divorce, who plotted this evil scheme. They were going through a divorce, and that man, he was trying, so they was married. So the man, he had come up with this scheme. They looked at her, quote unquote, like she was rich. She's a rich broker, so we're gonna rob her. They were just initially they was just planning to rob her, but it went awry. The whole plan went awry. So that's why her purse was that's why her husband seen her purse on the seat in the car, because they forgot when they were leaving out of the house with her, the potential home that was for sale, the house that was for sale, they was leaving out of there. They got in their vehicle, I'm assuming, and so they forgot her purse. But they was going to have her, they meant to get her purse so they could get money, ask the husband to wire the money so they could have, because they was going to have access to her cards and stuff. So just put them, send us the money. And I guess they was planning on letting her go after that or whatever, but probably not. But That was, that's what they said. That, but the whole thing, when they was doing all this other stuff, they left the house, and I can't remember this last show I watched, the crime show, they didn't go into a great detail, but the one I watched previously, which has been a while ago, they told like every detail what happened. And they had her in that house for a while, tied up or whatever, and she was bound. I think they tied up a rope or what, I don't know. She was tied up because they was trying to figure out what they was going to do. And I think that's why they ended up forgetting the purse that was in the car, was because they was just trying to figure out what they was going to do. And they probably got nervous and skittish or whatever. And then, because I think while they were in there, all three of them were in that house together, they were making calls to her. They allowed her to make calls to the husband. I'm okay, don't worry about me, and acting like she had went out. I think the message said, she told her husband, I went out, no, voicemail. I went out with my friends, we went out for drinks after work, and he's like, so if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the same story. But anyway, it's just a lot of it. I'm okay, don't worry about me. But see, they was buying themselves more and more time, because, when you send somebody a message like that, then they like, okay, well, I'm she okay. And time goes on. That's buying you another hour, another 2 hours, whatever. But authorities later found Beverly's body in a shallow grave toward the back of a property. And come to find out also, excuse me, y'all. Come to find out also, he had recently worked at some concrete place or something like that. He buried her body behind that the property on that on that business in their area, on the property at that business he used to work at. So the audacity, the evilness of that. So when I watched it, like I said, I came across it again. I hadn't watched it in a while. It's been a year or so since I last watched it, I think, or maybe longer. But when I watched it, I was like, beautiful lady. And, to hear her son, one of her sons talk about how much, how caring she was, and how, how she was just a lot, just the joy of the family. Well, she just enjoyed life, and her coworkers and friends and stuff talk nothing but good things about her, great things to say about her. But I was like, wow, and I think about, a lot of times with the decisions, and that's why I wanted to share how God blocked me from going over people's houses. He said, quit doing it. Don't do that. Don't ever put yourself in a situation. But now this lady, Beverly, that was her job. That's what she did for a living. So she didn't think nothing, about that. Like, well, I'm going to sell this house so I can get, I'm gonna get money from it, So she wasn't thinking anything. Of course she wasn't, anything. Nobody was going to try to hurt her. She was doing her job. But, y'all, it's so much evil lurking around. And they basically took her life for nothing, because they didn't get a chance, and they didn't get no money. They didn't get nothing but jail time. And they got a lot of time. They got a lot of time. So they'll get a chance to think about what they did, ending her life for nothing, basically, for nothing. Just a stupid decision. And it hurt, of course, hurt her family. And I'm sure they still dealing with that to this day. It happened in 2014. Of course they are. And, they just in jail, and for however many years or whatever. But it's just so sad that people sit up. And even the son, he had made a comment. He said, by no means, no way, no, were we rich? Said my mom said she wasn't rich. But see, I don't even think it was about that. It was just about they seen an opportunity. And I think back on that, we all have made bad decisions. We all have did something, maybe I shouldn't do that. Or maybe, because like I said, I'm pretty sure that other story, the other crime show that I watched way while back, I believe they had said she was reluctant to go meet, first, I want to say it was the man who called her first. See, they was scheming in. He had called her first. And so she, and then the woman stepped in, because I can't remember, I can't remember all the details, but it seemed like that's what happened. he was trying to, I guess, reassure her that he was married and okay, I got this wife, me and her both trying to whatever. Because I think he was initially he was gonna go by himself, but I can't remember what all went down with that. And so anyway, both of them ended up going there, meeting her. So because I think some words were exchanged or whatever, and so he was trying to make her feel at ease. So I'm gonna bring my wife. And so, and it could have been, I think she may have been trying to reschedule or something. So he didn't want to, he was so greedy after money. He didn't want to miss that opportunity that day, that night, that Friday night. So he was like, okay, well, my wife, she gonna come with me. But like I said, the whole reason that was even put into place, one, evil, they were both evil people. They allowed the devil to use them. But secondly, was because they needed money. They were desperate for money. They were going through a divorce. And he came up with that idea, well, we gonna rob her. And like I said, I'm sure they had no intention, ever had any intention of letting her go. But that's what he said, well, we was just trying to get money. And they didn't even get the money because, like I said, they left out of the house so quickly. They left her purse in the car. And so, see, that's what and see, that was God just, in that whole case, because had they taken that purse, see, they probably, I don't know if they would have got away with that, but that would have, a lot more time would have gone by. Because, see, they would have been trying to figure out, well, where, but by him seeing that purse, he knew right away something was wrong. And even with her car being there, but of course, that's why the guy had her to say, I went out for drinks after work. So well, that explained why her car was still at the house. But when the husband, he knew his wife. It's like, no, she wouldn't leave her purse in the car. Why is her purse on the seat? And they showed it was open. So it was like, why? Why? So y'all, just please be mindful, be alert. That family, like I said, I was watching the son, and they were showing all the pictures when they were growing up and stuff, the whole family, and how over the years, and it's just so sad how, people will manipulate you, and they will just do evil things against you. That woman left out from that office to, looking to sell that home or potentially sell it, and meet what seemingly seemed like seemingly nice people. She talked with over the phone, and that was gonna be her last time seen alive. Because they, like I said, they kept her in that house for a while, and then they were trying to figure out what they were gonna do. And then after that, that's when because the guy was saying also, he said we had to take her life, and I think they suffocated her. That's how she passed away. And he was like, we gotta, because the plan just was all over the place, and they were gonna let her go, I think. That's what he said. But it was just too much time had gone by, and I think that's what he said. And he said they just decided to just do that. But it's just terrible. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. So just be mindful, be alert, be sober minded. Like I said, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And we just got to be careful, y'all. If something don't feel right, something feel off, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't go meet that person. Don't do none of that. And I remember years ago, when I was, of course, my late husband was living in, but I shared this before. I'm gonna share it because it's very timely to share it now. But he used to tell me, he said, quit getting gas for the car. We lived in a nice neighborhood. So to get to our house in Tennessee, we had to get on the interstate. That's how we just lived away, not in the suburbs or nothing like that, but it was just from the area that I grew up in, the project area, or where I worked, that area, downtown area there. We lived, that's how, we sort of had, I had moved on up, if you will, but still the same person. I didn't think I was better than nobody, but, that would remind me, I'm like, I gotta get on the interstate to get home. So we lived on the east side of town or whatever. And so we had a gas station that was at the end of our street, and Exxon. And he used to always tell me, I would always be rushing when I was headed, that's when I worked at Blue Cross Blue Shield. and I'd be rushing. You know, the car be almost on E. I said, okay, I got enough to get to work. You know, and I said, I get some gas when I get off work. And so I always never ran out of gas. I always had enough, you know, to make it there. And so he used to always tell me, he said, why do you do that? He said, won't you get it the night before? I said, no, you know, because then I was all over the place. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And even though he would always advise me, would, you know, give me good advice, I said, I'll be okay. And so what would happen, I would end up getting gas in the, I'm just going to say it, in the hood. And so there were 2 gas stations that I would stop at. One would be bad, the other would be worse. And there was always a bunch of people hanging around and people trying to get you to come to their car. They were selling CDs or perfume or whatever. And I remember this one guy, he had asked me, he said, because while you going trying to pay for your gas or pumping your gas, they approach you because they're trying to make money. And so this, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening, whatever. You know, I'm tired. And sometimes when you're tired, you're not thinking straight. Well, I know for me, that applied to me. And so I used to tell him that. I said, there's just be so much going on. He said, I told you, quit doing that. He said, get gas over here where we live, and you just get on the interstate. You don't even have to stop. And so he said, you know, I'm trying to help you, you know. And so, and he used to always tell me this, y'all. These words, I can literally hear him say these words all the time. That's why it helps me, and God reminds me to be alert, be mindful. But he used to always tell me, he said, you don't ever, this is what he said to me, you don't ever want to find yourself in a situation where you say, I should have listened to my husband. That's what he used to tell me that. He said, you don't ever want to be in that situation, say, I should have did what he told me. I shouldn't have did that. Or I shouldn't have went with them, or I shouldn't have went over their house, or I shouldn't have got in their car, or whatever. He said, you don't ever want to find yourself in that position. I said, oh, that's so true. And I think about that from time to time, y'all, since I'm single now. But I know God got his hand on me and my children. He continues to protect us, even though the enemy think he plotting, planning, and scheming over all of our lives. And God said, I'm going to take care of y'all. So, but he, you know, he wants us to make good decisions, and he wants us to be mindful of who around us. And, you know, people wear masks and they act like they nice and this, that, and the other. And them the same people. You know, you can go over their house and they can tie you, God forbid, but this stuff happens, y'all. And they can tie you up and you never be seen again in life. They can put something in your water, or get you talking and laughing and whatever. And you say, well, let me go ahead and use the bathroom. And you go in the bathroom, you come out, and it could be, they could be gone. It could be somebody in there, you know, sent to hurt you or something. So, y'all, like I said, it's not paranoia. Paranoia is being mindful. It's having discernment. And I thank the Lord for that, because, you know, I used to give people, I said, well, I give them a benefit of the doubt, but now you can't do that, because it's people that the enemy is using to come against you. Your family, it could be your coworker, it could be your neighbor, it could be anybody. And so, and that's what the Lord has reminded me as well. He said, when you walk into their house, when you go into their home where they dwelling place at, you willingly went in there. They didn't pull you in there. Didn't nobody push you in there. They didn't shove you in there. You went in there willingly. So, you know, you're on your own. You know, who told you to do that? You told you to do that. And so I was sort of thinking about going out. I kept thinking the lady who we used to live with at church. I was like, I'm going to go by and visit her. And the Lord said, don't you go back in that house. Don't you go back over there. And so, because my children, they would tease me from time to time after we left from, you know, moved out from her. And I said, I ain't got no problem with going back over there. I said, we lived there for 3 months. And so, I just had a sort of like not really a vision, but it was just like, it wasn't a pretty one. So I was like, okay, Lord, I ain't going back over there. And not saying that I don't feel like, you know, I don't feel like she would do anything like that, but it was just like almost like an alert. Like, don't do it. Don't go back over there. Don't go back over there. I brought you out of that place. Y'all got a beautiful place you live in. Don't go back over there. Just don't. You see her at church, say hey to her. And I said, okay, Jesus, I'm not going to do it. So, yeah, I thank the Lord, y'all, for discernment. I thank him for his protection. I thank him for his grace and his mercy. Because like that lady, if you get a chance, look her up. I'm going to put her picture up. Beautiful lady. And my heart just goes out to her family because, basically she trusted, she trusted her job. She trusted the people who said they were coming to buy the home, and they deceived her. They deceived her. And now she's passed away, and they in jail for the rest of their life. And, and her family is left to deal with all of that. But it's just, it's so sad. She was doing her job. She didn't go in nobody. She didn't go in that house just to go in the house. She was selling the home. And here goes somebody plotting, planning, and scheming over her life, And like I said, I always like to think about when the person got up that morning, or when they, the day before, did they do anything significant? Maybe something they hadn't did before or in a while, or, maybe, I don't know. I think about that. That was going to be her last day. That's going to be her last day alive, on the earth that day. Because they took her life that day, that Friday. So, if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember if they took her life that Friday, but I don't know if if it wasn't that day, it was a couple of days later, but I want to say it was that day, because they didn't find her until a few days, I think some days later. But we just got to stay prayed up, y'all. We really do. And it's some stories I watch, I'm going to share that story too, about another one I watched this morning. But it's certain ones that just really, all of them matter. All of them do, yeah, because those were precious souls. But at the same time, it's just like they come across my feed, and I'm like, wow, that's really unfortunate. But we gotta be mindful. We do. And my heart, just like I said, my heart goes out to her family. And I know they still dealing with that. Of course they are. And we just gotta pray for people. Pray for that husband and wife who did that, because like I said, what did they gain from that? Nothing. They in jail for the rest of their life, and they took someone's life for some money that they never got a chance to receive or spend. So y'all, as always, I pray you always hear Jesus speaking through me and never me. I pray you've had a beautiful, blessed day in the mighty name of Jesus. I love you, but remember, Jesus loves you so much more. The best is still yet to come for you and for me. God bless you. God keep you is my prayer. Bye-bye.